So, if a right is not written in the Constitution, does it even exist at all? Well, that's what the Ninth Amendment tries to address. James Wilson, one of the most important, but honestly least talked about architects of the U.S. Constitution. By the way, he was also one of the first U.S. Supreme Court justices. Well, he stood before Pennsylvania's ratifying convention in 1787 and delivered a warning that terrified James Madison. Wilson asked, "Why should we list rights at all? In a government of limited powers, the people retain everything not explicitly given away." Start listing rights, Wilson argued, and some future tyrant will claim that if it's not on the list, well, it doesn't exist at all. That's interesting. I mean, think about the logic for a second. The Constitution doesn't say, for example, that you have a right to grow tomatoes in your backyard. It doesn't mention your right to choose whom to marry, what to eat for breakfast, whether you can learn French or Spanish or hike in the woods. Should we assume that we don't have those rights because they're not written in the Constitution? Well, this argument consumed the founders. Alexander Hamilton, well, he attacked the very idea of a Bill of Rights in Federalist 84. He called it not only unnecessary, but dangerous. Why? Well, because no list could ever be complete. Hamilton warned that any attempt to catalog our rights would accidentally surrender the ones that we forgot to mention. Meanwhile, anti-federalists like George Mason, well, he demanded the opposite. Without a written Bill of Rights, they argued, the new federal government could crush individual liberty. Patrick Henry, well, he in his big voice expressed in Virginia that without explicit protections, federal judges would interpret away just about every freedom that colonists had fought so hard to secure. Madison found himself trapped between two paranoid camps, and both had valid points. If he wrote a Bill of Rights, he risked implying that unlisted rights didn't exist. If he didn't write one, well, states like Virginia and New York would reject the Constitution. That's a problem. So he tried to find a solution. And his solution was brilliantly simple. He'd write a Bill of Rights, but include a catch-all amendment saying, essentially, this list is not complete, and we're well aware of it. And the Ninth Amendment became Madison's escape hatch by declaring that enumerated rights don't deny or disparage others retained by the people. Madison satisfied both camps. Anti-federalists got written guarantees. The Federalists got assurance that the list wasn't exhaustive. But Madison did even more. He, in fact, flipped the burden of proof. Instead of citizens having to prove that they, in fact, possessed a right, the government would have to prove the people had surrendered that right. The Ninth Amendment created a presumption of liberty. Unless the Constitution specifically grants the federal government a power, the people, well, they keep their freedom to act. Roger Sherman of Connecticut, he actually proposed a different language that would have limited this protection only to rights expressed in state constitutions. Well, Madison wouldn't have it, and he killed that version. He wanted broader protection for rights that existed, whether any government acknowledged them or not. And here's what makes the Ninth Amendment so radical. It admits the Constitution cannot anticipate every freedom that matters. The founders knew that they could not imagine every right that future generations would need. I mean, they just fought a war because Parliament claimed colonists only had rights that British law explicitly recognized. Well, the Ninth Amendment declares the opposite. Americans possess rights that no document fully captures. And today we argue endlessly about what those enumerated rights include. Privacy, travel, raising your children as you choose. And the founders deliberately did not answer these questions. They simply announced a principle. Just because we didn't write it down doesn't mean it's not yours. The Ninth Amendment stands as the founders' confession of humility and admission that no 18th century convention could possibly catalog every freedom that human dignity requires. And by the way, if you've enjoyed this video, please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel. Thanks.